What's going on, everyone? Juice Bags here, and welcome back to some Dungeon Defenders 2. Today, we are going to take a look at the Firework Cannon from the Initiate that came as part of the Initiate rework in the Shifting Sands update. Now, we are here on Chaos 9 Forest Biome. This is my favorite tester map, as you just got the straight lanes, and you can really see the effectiveness of a defense. Now, we're going to go through a few different builds here and kind of check out how good each one is. So first things first, let's start off with the basics. We're going to do just straight Firework Cannon as main lane DPS. Now, for this particular build, I did switch out Destructive Pylon and put it onto my Reflect Beam, so I can get the Destructive Pylon benefit off of that without having to spend any additional DU, as I'm just going to want a Reflect Beam on this particular build. Now, in addition to that, I, of course, am going to want to boost it out. So let's go ahead and throw a boost star down, and we are going to be in pretty darn good shape right here for getting this one started. So taking a look at it here, we spent 120 DU on Firework Cannons, we spent 40 DU on our boost star, and we spent 20 DU on a Reflect Beam. This brings us up to a 180 DU build. We are going to add in a Sky Guard. We'll just throw that up top here just to not distract with those flyers at all. And for 180 DU in this type of setup, there's one main problem with the build. And that is it just isn't going to get through, or it's going to be very sketch in Wave 1. Now, with that in mind, throwing a few upgrades in, if you have any additional mana available to get through Wave 1 is going to be helpful. Without that, you are going to have to help out quite a bit, as we will see here. Now, I do have that mana, so the smartest thing to do would have just been to upgrade. But let's take a look at just the raw Firework Cannon power. Now, as you see, it is getting through mobs, but it's getting through them quite slowly, and the enemies are starting to push. So, as mentioned, for this particular build, I'm going to have to help out since I didn't put any upgrades in. Now, if I did have some upgrades on, it would be a little bit of a different story, as the Firework Cannons cost 40 DU. They do get a nice bit of value from upgrades, so just upgrading these cannons with this regular 180 DU build is going to be enough to kind of get over the hump and get the job done for this very first wave. Now, of course, not every map is 180 DU requirement, so we will take a look at this one with some upgrades in, but then additionally, we will take a look at it if you have a little bit more DU to spend on the lane you're going to use the Fireworks Cannon. Now, I do have to say, as far as just raw power and effectiveness, I don't think the Fireworks Cannon is going to be a go-to for anybody. I do think, as far as cool factor, though, they are amazingly cool to use and quite fun. So if you're looking for fun, the Firework Cannon may be one for you. Let's get these other lanes upgraded as well. And now let's check it out in action. Let's actually throw an upgrade on that Sky Guard as well. That way we don't have to think about the flyers much. And now that we've got some upgrades on those Firework Cannons, we're going to see that enemies are going to start dying a little bit quicker. So they're not marching all the way down, getting into range. That is why that Reflect Beam was really such an important component, as enemies are going to get into range to take some shots. Now, with a few upgrades in, you see then they are able to get the job done on their own. Depending on the situation, you might have to get in the mix a little bit and assist. However, after a few upgrades in, the Fireworks Cannon is doing quite well. Now, is it at Tier 1 versus Wave 1? There are many, many other defenses in the game that are better. Now, we're going to go ahead and help out on the boss, as really you should be in any type of situation here. We got the captain rolling in. He is good and wrecked. And Wave 2 here was much, much smoother now that we got some upgrades in. But now let's take this build one step further. Now, of course, the Firework Cannon is a fire defense, meaning that if you add oil in somewhere, you can then get that Ignite combo. So what are we going to do? Well, first off, we never even looked at the Firework Cannon setup itself. I'm going with this one, anti-melee, defense rate, and piercer, deadly strikes, destruction, and mass. For Chaos 9 specifically, I would rather have anti-chaos than anti-melee. However, I don't have a setup for it, and it's only 10% difference. The main thing is I'd be able to get that anti-effect on the Wyverns. However, we are now going to juice this build up a little bit. So first things first, let's turn this bad boy into a 220 DU build. We're going to do that by adding in an oil catapult. So let's just throw an oil catapult right here in the back. We are now going to be able to get that Ignite combo going. Deadly Strikes, Destruction, and Oily Overflow on that one. This is one of my older... Actually, I think this was my Dragon's Nest relic now on the oil catapult. So anti-melee, anti-chaos defense rate. We're using this for support, though. I'm using the Oily Overflow, leaving additional oil on the ground. Now, if you wanted to go full on 100% support on your catapult, then of course you wouldn't need destruction, and instead you could go with something like, let's see, what is that one? There's another shard for it. Let me see if I can find it here. Vicious Oil. The oil effect from oil catapult now slows enemies by an additional percentage and also slows their attack speed. Now, this particular one, it's to me, it feels like you get such a small benefit from it that I personally choose to go with just a little bit more power instead and go with destruction. However, for full support, you could use that shard as well. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at it now that we got the catapult in the mix. Of course, we'll keep the upgrades flowing, so let's get them all up. We can't upgrade them all the way yet. However, it will give us a good look at the power with 220 DU and some additional upgrades, almost full upgraded across. Now, we're going to start melting here now. The oil is going to get the Ignite combo out there. That is going to give those Fireworks Cannons a raw 25% damage increase from the enemies that are ignited. Now, with this in mind, it's just going to completely shred lanes. Now, we are going to take this one step further to add even more of a shred factor. However, as you see, it's just doing quite well. A lot of the enemies are even dying before they're ignited. So now that we've got the full upgrades in, we're seeing the Firework Cannon at its full potential, and it does pretty darn good. Now, say you had enough DU to change that into a Boost Star and Buff Beam build, well, then it would be a different story as far as being at Tier 1. Let's jump down here. That way our Assassin is handled. Assassin is dealt with. The bosses are dealt with. And it is GG's. Now, just some serious shred. Like I said, a lot of instances here, the oil cannon is not even getting shots off. Because now that we have upgrades in on our Fireworks Cannon, it's just a whole different story. So what can we do to take this one more level? Well, let's bust out our Initiate. Oh, she's already in deck, actually, right here. And let's just throw any old relic. This is one of my old Onslaught relics from way back in the day. Don't use it anymore, but it's sitting here still. And we are going to focus on getting that debuff with the Chi Spirit Tower. Now, this is adding another 50 DU, so this is now a 270 DU build, meaning there's only a few maps in the game where you'd be able to actually use this build. But oh my god, let's watch it go. Now let's go ahead and upgrade this all the way. That way we see the absolute maximum potential of everything here. I guess if we wanted to see the absolute maximum potential, we'd throw a Buff Beam down too. However, I am going to leave the Buff Beam out of the mix here today and just check it out. Now we're getting another additional free anti-mod basically out of the Chi Spirit Tower, as when it debuffs enemies, then of course those enemies are going to be taking increased damage. So now we have got what is an absolute AFK massacre. Now, depending on what bosses come, if an ogre rolls out right now, the ogre's just going to get handled, so there's no reason to intervene whatsoever. Depending on what boss you get, though, in some cases it's going to completely shred the boss. In other cases, not so much, but we see Oh yeah, we are seriously getting it done now, and nothing is really pushing into range at all. Now we got a Cyclone Shaper, and we got a Cannon Ogre, so let's just watch these bosses die here and see how it goes. They should get handled quite readily. You see that Cannon Ogre is burning quite fast. We do have an Assassin on us. I'm going to try to ignore him. Cyclone Shaper kind of died in the background while the Cannon Ogre was getting walloped. We better get some heals here, but not really, because we are actually at the end of the wave already. All we've got left is this one Assassin, so let's just get that guy wrecked. Assassin good and dead, and now we can move on to our final wave. Now, do we want to go completely OP? Now we've got, what, a 270 DU build? Do we want to add even more DU to it to make it just completely broken? Well, of course we do. So let's go ahead and get a buff beam in as well. Yeah, now we got just absolute stupidity. Now, at the same note, we've got a defense that cost way too much DU to place. So at this point, I think there's only 4 maps in the game that could handle this build per lane. However, if you're on one of those 4 maps, oh my god, watch it go. It's going to be just absolute absurdity. So we got an Ancient Wyvern rolling right out. Everything's just getting mashed. Mashed. Oh yeah. Ancient Wyvern, oh, it's done. Everything's getting tore up because we've now got a massive amount of power. Now the Fireworks Tower is pretty cool, really. It's a super fun defense to use. Would I use this defense when I'm just farming maps? Nope, I sure wouldn't. Because no matter what, no matter how cool and how effective this setup is, it's just really, really hard to beat this setup over here that costs practically nothing, has 1 upgrade on it, and is still just completely annihilating the lanes. So, I mean, as far as general farm builds, I personally am just going to go with Fishers the majority of the time, just because they do so well. Now, it's not because Fishers are so strong, because if you don't have them decked out, they're not going to be near as good as that. It's just, it feels like there's a little bit of imbalance between what's really good and what's usable in Dungeon Defenders 2. But the Fireworks Cannon is usable if you want to use it, and it's quite fun. I mean, it's got a nice graphic, it's got a cool shot, and it is that fire damage, so it's very, very easy for you to add in that Ignite combo. Is today the day? Let's see. Is today the day? Of course it's not, but we're going to try anyway. We got our key. Let's ignore everything that dropped in the main chest, because all that matters is the super fun secret chest that one of these days, decades later, I will get a 10 out of 10 mod out of this thing. But once again, today will not be that day. But that will do it for now. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see ya next time around. Take it easy.